Hello everybody, let me start first by wishing everyone a happy new year. I hope it's a happy, healthy and empowering one for all of us, both in the YouTube community as well as in the wider world. Today I want to talk about garden planning. Now, Dan and I are doing a major garden project in these winter months, so it's ready for the spring, and more about that will be discussed in the weeks to come, and you'll probably see some of the progress made as well. We spent about an hour or so today looking through what seeds we had, discarding any that were really old. Some have a early 2025 sell by, they're fine to use. We did have some that were very old. We had tried propagating and planting some of them this year with very mixed success. They weren't that great, so we're going to replace those. We also went to the garden centre and we picked up a few bits. I got some new gardening shoes, which I really needed. The last ones were full of holes and very leaky. Even the shoelaces were bust on them. And I did get rid of those a few months ago. So I've mainly just been wearing boots. But I do prefer to have something to wear on my feet that aren't boots. So I got the typical plastic gardening shoes. I got those today from the garden centre in a nice shade of teal blue. It can be a good idea to draw out even a very rough diagram of how you want your garden to look. Ours is quite wide, but not as long as the garden we had in our maisonette in West London. We have a large work shed on one side, which Dan uses for his piano tuning and any upcycling and repairs of things around the house. I have taught him quite a few things about French polishing. We often do French polishing together, so he kind of learnt on the job. And then nearby we have a small greenhouse. This we had off eBay. It didn't put together very well at all. The instructions were not good. The door didn't fit properly, but somehow Dan managed to make it work. Then on the other side we've got some red currants and white currants. So that's more or less how the bottom end of the garden looks. Now we do have a gap. We were going to get our workman to do some work on the garden, but we couldn't really afford it and decided to do it ourselves. Nor was it the right time as well to start moving the greenhouse across to the shed, to make a bigger space that end for maybe decking. And we kind of like that little bit of wild area anyway, and Dan likes to be able to get down the side of his shed there, so we decided not to bother with that. And then we have two borders. We have one each side. The left hand side we use for growing things. The right hand side is mainly rose bushes. We do have rhubarb at this near end. We have had strawberry plants as well in there, but we're going to move them into pots. So down here, which is actually the left hand side, we have some rhubarb, the far end, and then the rest is for growing. We usually grow potatoes and brassicas and everything else. We usually do a crop rotation system there as well. And near the house, we have a patio area which goes right across there with a gap, and we have a couple of troughs. And then we have some herbs as well, and there's the door. It's not to scale. Now we have decided that we're going to change things quite a lot in the garden. So the bottom end here where the greenhouse and the shed are, we're going to have some kind of paving. Or gravel. We may decide to have gravel because it's probably easier for us to lay. And then this area here, we're going to have bark. And then somewhere we're going to have a path, a crazy paving path. And then we're going to have an arch. And the idea is that we're going to grow either a grapevine, which is my preference, or else a trailing blackberries. So it should look rather good. We also make use of a wide range of containers. So at the moment we have containers. So this year we had containers on here as well because we needed to leave the ground fallow to recover. This side, of course, we also have a quince tree. We've got a Buddha and a quince tree that side. So this is the right way round. It's not a very accurate drawing, but it kind of gives you an idea. We will do things in a bit of an organic way, depending on how things all come together. We had a look though at what we have left, what seeds we can still make use of. We have some scarlet globe radishes. These are okay till the end of 2025. It says sow thinly, 1/2 inch deep in drills, 12 inch apart in soil, which has been raked to a fine tilth. Water ground regularly, especially during dry periods. We find that it's, because we've got a south facing garden, it's easier and better for the radishes to grow before the weather gets really hot. We find that during the really warm weather, the radishes don't grow quite so well. So we prefer to do them earlier on in the year and maybe a little bit later on in the year to finish by September. We had very weird weather this year and we didn't do very well with radishes at all. When large enough to handle, thin out seedlings to 1 inch apart, keep plants cool and moist to prevent running to seed. I like to pick seedlings to put in salads, they're really delicious. I also do sprouting of radish seeds as well in jars, and within a few days I have lovely microgreens that I can add to salads. And those radish seedlings have a nice peppery taste. I love radishes. So I want to buy some heritage radishes. So I'm going to write heritage radish. We also have some peas to sow as well. We sowed some of these this season and they're still okay. We've still got the packaging. So we're going to have another go with these and hope that they do better than they did this year. The weather was just not right for them at all. So we're going to give these a go. We also have some broad beans left as well. And we've got the packaging for these, and again, we'll give those a go. These cauliflowers we haven't grown at all. We can sow them as late as June and then harvest around about October. So we may give these a go a bit later on in the year because we have limited room. Cauliflowers take up quite a bit of space. There's an area we use every year for growing brassicas. We rotate. Oh, these will be a definite. We grew some potatoes really successfully in bags this year, so we may do that again. I have an idea for growing something else potatoey in the actual ground where we normally grow potatoes. So watch this space. These iceberg lettuces are perfectly fine. We can use these by the end of 2025. We have grown these really successfully this year in troughs. In fact, I'm still growing lettuces through the winter. They're absolutely brilliant. We've just got them covered over with fleece. They tend to grow slower, but we make sure we feed them. We don't really need to water them very much because it's very wet here in Thanet, especially during the winter months. And they seem quite happy. We've harvested one or two in the last couple of weeks. They're very tasty. We haven't really had many problems with them. The slugs and snails haven't got to them. It's been fantastic. We're also overwintering a couple of things. We have some catmint or catnip, which is overwintering, and also bird-eyed chilies were overwintering as well. They seem to be doing really well. It's useful to learn how to do overwintering. We have some parsnip here. They're a Catal August 2025. They're white gem, they're pale variety, so we'll certainly be doing something with those this coming year. We have some courgettes. These of course are related to cucumbers, melons, squashes, etc. And these are okay till December 2026. We can plant them out in June. We can sow them indoors from March and outdoors from April. We can harvest as late as October, and I think it might be fun to do some of these. We did grow courgettes the other year with great success. They were huge, they were more like marrow, which of course is a large courgette. Our friend from down the road, Jan, she gave us one of her courgette plants that she'd propagated, and it was so successful. We have cucumber. Now, this is an all-female American slicer, so it's ideal for outdoor and greenhouse growing. Plants produce a heavy crop of slightly spined dark green fruits, 8 inches long, with crisp, juicy flesh. Excellent powdery, mildew, weather and scab resistant. These are perfect for sour pickles, which Dan and I both love. They will be wonderful. So we have cucumber. We have some rainbow beet here. They're okay till 2027. And actually today I bought another rainbow beet because I forgot we already had a rainbow beet. Duh. Well, it'll come in useful. This one is also 2027, so we have 2 packets of those. We have a Chantenay carrot. These will be nice. 2026. We're overwintering carrots at the moment. Today when we were at the garden centre, I did buy this little variety. We grew these in 2023 and they were very successful as well. We can sow them in March and they're quick to grow. They can be harvested between June and October. Also today I got this, it's winter squash. These we sow under glass and plant indoors in April, May. We can sow directly in May. We can also plant them at that time and they should be ready between August and October, all being well. And you can use this variety in place of mashed potatoes. They have a much lower GI value, up to 80% fewer calories and 75% less carbohydrate than potatoes. They're really good for a lower GI diet, as are sweet potatoes. And we have these early jalapenos. I've got some basil here. So by December 2027, I find the basil is easier to grow indoors because we have a south-facing garden. It will probably get too hot outside. But this is a Thai basil, which are very aromatic and great in salads as well. It's a half-hardy annual which can be grown in pots, attractive plants with a rich aniseed flavour. They don't want to be too much out in the full sun. So if we do grow them outside, we will be mindful to put them in a position. We have got a few positions in the garden where we can put them so they won't get any sunburn. And we have some peas here, early onward. We can just go online and look. These came from Pretty Wild Seeds on eBay. They specialise in organic seeds and often, although they do the pictorial packaging, that costs more. They often do things in plain packaging that don't cost enough money. So all we need to do is look at one of our gardening books, which we refer to when we need to. We have a number of gardening books on our bookshelf, or have a look on Mr. DuckDuckGo. Here's some more radishes. We've got some rocket. This is best before the 3rd 26. Some spring onion, that's Lilia 100. That will be okay during 2025. And some Ice Queen organic lettuce. So I think we can safely say the only things that I need are sweet potatoes. That is for my project. More about that in another vlog. And probably some mixed leaves. And finally, bell peppers and tomatoes. Now, Dan and I tried growing a few varieties that were different from our usual. We haven't got any tomato seeds left. We've used them all. We had a lot of problems this year with tomatoes, but we're going to probably do the Alicante again. We had some really nice large ones. I think they were the Big Pink Mama. They were really successful. And some sweet little cherry tomatoes. The banana leg were hopeless, and so were the Black Moon, really disappointing. We're going to look for a variety of nice heritage tomato seeds. I'll look for those probably today or tomorrow online, along with a couple of bell pepper plants. Now, today, Grow Joyfully Homestead was talking about tomatoes and how it's a good idea to start sowing and propagating the bell peppers first, and that's what we will do. We haven't normally done that before, and we haven't normally had much success before, and I think that's what we'll do. We do have one pepper plant on the windowsill which is overwintering, but I might just buy a packet of pepper seeds. I like the Padron peppers and the long Romano peppers as well. The Padron ones are the smaller ones, the mini variety, and then of course the Romano ones are the very long peppers, which I also like, so I might get some of those because we do have a bell pepper plant and it seems to be doing well overwintering. Now, for Christmas, one of my lovely cousins sent us these. These are seed balls, and they encourage various insects to the garden. And companionship gardening is really important because it helps to protect some of your vegetables that are susceptible to aphids and other insects. So for example, you might grow chives next to carrots, or you might grow onions next to carrots as well. I need some onion seeds, that reminds me, onions. And I did see some gorgeous red onion varieties online yesterday when I was looking at Pretty Wild Seeds. So onions, red onions, definitely. We have also grown in the past the gorgeous pink onion, the Roscoff onion before, and they were really successful. I love Roscoff onions. They're so expensive in the shops as well. In fact, we do try to grow gourmet varieties more because you can get the common garden vegetables fairly cheaply. I don't like using the supermarket, but if desperate, I might toggle off there. But in terms of what we grow in the garden, we do prefer to grow some of the lesser known varieties, and it makes your food even tastier. And I also need some markers. I think we've got a dibber, but I'll put one down anyway because I haven't seen it for a while. And then things like soil and bark and the other things we need. But everything is coded with a picture of the creature. So these, for example, are flower bombs that encourage bats to the garden. These seed bombs encourage hedgehogs to the garden, and our neighbour Jan has 3 hedgehogs and a little hedgehog hotel, which is so cute. These encourage birds. These are usually my absolute favourite. These encourage bees. Butterflies, again, love butterflies. And beetles. Now, you might not like beetles, but all of them, are essential to the biodiversity, not just of our gardens, but also of the countryside. And I'm looking forward to using a few of these. I'm not sure how many we will be able to accommodate at once in our garden, but they're usually okay for quite a while. So, for example, the beetle one is common knapweed, yarrow, cow parsley, field scabious, great burnet and cornflower. I love cornflowers. So another flower that is really good for companionship gardening is marigolds. When I was a kid, we lived in Zambia for a while and we had a really big garden out back and grew all manner of things. We had a banana plant, we had a mango tree, we had pawpaw, guava, chilies, we had sweet potatoes, normal taters, we had peppers, all manner of things, onions, if I haven't said onions already. I remember at 6 years old, I was always a curious kid, it was always getting me into mischief. I decided to pick a chilli and eat it raw. Oh my goodness, I was at the standpipe. Woo! I didn't try that again, although I did like spicy food. But we need to learn, and the only way of learning is to experiment and try these things. So it says that seed balls are thirsty and require regular rainfall for the seeds to start to grow. Well, that should be easy in Thanet. So if we plant these pretty early on in the season, so March or April, they will soon grow. If there's not much rain, just water them. Even if there were to be a hosepipe ban, we have a fully functional water bat, and that could be useful in times of water shortages. Although we don't drink tap water, we drink either filtered water or we buy water, bottled water. But we do have the water butt now, which should be a godsend. We may need to treat it as well. If there's algae, we will be taking a look in the next week or two to see how the water is going in there. It says many seeds need to experience a cold spell to trigger their germination. If scattering seed balls in late spring or summer, we'd suggest storing the balls in a fridge for a couple of weeks prior to scattering. So I think we will probably do them earlier in the season rather than later. So there's full growing instructions, and then this tells you a bit about them, the whole ethos behind them, and also other ideas about how to do it and the whole method of planting them. So you scatter onto bare soil or compost. You don't need to dig, and then the seeds germinate inside the ball and begin to sprout. So you don't have to cover them over or anything. Don't scatter them on grass. You can put them on a garden bed or in a pot, leaving at least 10 centimetres between each ball. The outer clay helps to prevent birds and insects from eating the seeds, keeping the seeds nicely protected, ensuring your bee and butterfly friendly wildflower garden has every chance of growing success. So that tells you all about it. And there's this as well, which tells you about the different mixes, about how to boost the food supply for a wide range of birds, which is brilliant. And that encourages the number of birds seen in your garden. Whilst in bloom, the flowers will attract insects that many birds feed on, while birds will also feed directly on the plants and seeds themselves. We were lucky when we lived in Isleworth, because at the bottom of our garden we had, if you like, you call it a colony of stag beetles, which are a protected species. it was wonderful to see the stag beetles. I don't like cockroaches very much, but it's always nice to see the stag beetles. It's a really good sign. So we were lucky enough to have that. Our garden was a complete wild garden. We never got round to doing it all, and although we grew various types of raspberries and other soft fruits, we just let it go wild, and we had all sorts in there. We did try growing vegetables in there, but they weren't too keen on the soot falling down from the airplanes because we were under the Heathrow flight path. But the wild vegetation and flowers seem to enjoy it anyway. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoy hearing about what we're up to. If so, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Comment, what are you planning to grow this year, if anything? What successes have you had, if you have been growing things? Any failures, or I prefer to say things that haven't worked out quite to plan. Sometimes you can include happy accidents in that. And really share your thoughts. And are you in a position where you don't have much ground to grow anything? Even a few pots on the windowsill can produce. I understand it could be more difficult to be self-sustainable if you haven't got a space where you can grow things that is sizable, or an allotment. A lot of allotments have long waiting lists, I'm aware of that. Anyway, please do share your thoughts and comments and experiences with me, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.